Hey everybody, Jim here. I'm also with one of our top counselors, Austin Beck. He's been with us for years, helped put together a lot of great portfolios for our investors. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. We made it a little bit later tonight to try to get some of our team players out on the West Coast involved. They had some requests saying, you guys are always so early. And I said, well, not for us, it wasn't. So, but we're doing a little later tonight. I appreciate you joining us. In order to let some of our friends on the West Coast finish dinner, getting back from work, we're going to get started about 3 minutes after. We got a great night tonight. We're going to share a little bit of just kind of a masterclass of the evolution of our business from starting 25 years ago of old fixer-uppers to new construction. Share some of the pitfalls that whether you work with us or not, you're going to be able to take these with you and use them in your real estate investing career. These are things that I've learned the hard way over the last 25 years. Chris, our whole team, many of our clients, and you're just going to see exactly how we work. A lot of people say, I'm not quite sure how build to rent works. What is this new construction turnkey system? We're going to talk about that and give you some fundamentals that you can talk about with your spouse, your significant other, and have a better understanding of how we help investors achieve passive income and active freedom in real estate. And that'll be our main subject tonight. So if you want to, in the chat box, if you want to say where you're coming in from, that's always nice to know. We're supposed to have people from all over the country coming in. And that's, something that we appreciate. So if you want to put in the chat box where you're coming in from, it's always nice to know that. We're obviously here in Florida. I'm in St. Augustine right now. Austin's up in Jacksonville. So if you want to write that in there, we're always happy to welcome all of our people. So let's see who we got so far. Oh, North Florida. Yep. So we're in from North Florida. We've had some South Florida people, a couple Californians. Good to know. Okay. From Ontario. Excellent. Some of our Rockstar Real Estate or North Ontario friends. Good to see you guys. North Central Florida. Houston, Texas. Kevin, do you build in Texas? We do, Kevin. We'll talk about that. Just for the institutions right now, we like to test things with them to start, and starting with them, then let the big guys' purses spend to make sure it works, and then we bring in our individual investors. Gainesville, good. Big fan of Gainesville, doing a project out there. Ridgecrest, California. Wow. Okay, I actually bought one of my first pieces of land there, Blaine, many, many, many years ago in a tax deed sale. So Ridgecrest, wow, that brings back memories. So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. Again, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll get started in about a minute. It's going to be a great night. We're going to share our principles of pitfalls that you want to avoid, why we do what we do, how it evolved into what we do, some case studies of clients, and I think you'll have a better feel of what's happening in the market today. We're going to try to give you some real timely info because there's a lot of noise out there, and we want to try to clear that noise from you. All right. So it is 9:03. So I'm going to get started. Thanks for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. I know some of you are up late tonight here with us on the East Coast, others on the West Coast, not so late, but you guys have been very patient for us to do a later one. So thank you. I'm Jim Sheils, a partner at Southern Impression Homes. And here's our disclaimer. Let just know that we're not attorneys, not accountants, all that good stuff. And we're just giving learning information. My journey started almost 30 years ago. I've been a real estate investor for 26 years, but I had a friend of my parents give me these two books, sit me down for breakfast one day, kind of took me under his wing, and he said, Jim, I'd like to see you buy income producing real estate. I didn't know what the heck that meant. I mean, I was 22 years old, and I bought my first property a few years later at 25 years old. In my first class in real estate, I paid $5,000, and my family and friends thought I was crazy that I would spend that kind of money to learn. But I was learning from someone that had bought hundreds of properties, and I wanted to learn from them. And why? Because I wanted passive income for active freedom. I had a very simple goal that if I got my real estate in place, I could get to the important things, the good stuff. That was my simple plan. It just seemed like real estate had that ability to create wealth and income while giving you certain freedoms that other careers, other paths did not have. This is my first deal. 432 North M Street, best real estate class I ever took. I bought it for $152,500 in 1999. I remember Tammy Atkins, my realtor, called me and said, your offer's been accepted. And I asked to call her back because I hung up and started hyperventilating in my living room, the place I was renting, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was a little nervous, but in all honesty, I had done some certain fundamentals and research, and it was a good deal. So I moved forward with it. Today, that property is worth about 865,000. I did sell it in 2004 for 570, and move that money forward into building my first real estate investment company. Now, so you guys know, a lot of people say, "Oh, Jim, you've done over 1,000 rehabs." I have, but I'm terrible at rehabs myself. Here I am. You see, I got more paint on my face and shirt than I did on the walls. I think I did the first two rehabs that I ever bought, and then after that, I brought in crews because I was so bad at it. And something important I learned about real estate, we're going to talk about tonight. It's really about time in the market versus timing the market. And you can see that with that first property that I bought. I had years in the market with getting into that property the right way, selling it years later for a great profit. And so people are always trying to time the market. We'll talk about that. About timing the market, but time in the market is really what produces the wealth from the mentors and success stories I've seen around me. And so, what is the key to wealth? It's long-term buy and hold. This is by far the best strategy for building wealth in real estate. It's undeniable, and I've seen it around my life. And again, I did not come from money. I was lucky enough to create money and be able to retire my parents. But my parents, any wealth that they had was right here, 11 Stonehenge Road in Morristown, New Jersey. They bought this in the early 70s for $49,000 and sold it for just under 600,000 in the early 2000s. So this was their wealth. This is what created any sort of stability for them. Had about an 8% return over the life of it. And that was interesting to see. And going back even further, this is my great grandfather's house that's still in our family in Ireland, a little town called Crosskeys, Ireland. My second cousin Michael owns it. It's been in the family 142 years. There is no mortgage on this property, and it's worth quite a bit. It was built for, I think, about $800. So long-term buy and hold, this might be an extreme, but it showed that if you have that time in the market and you're in the right type of fundamentals, which we'll discuss, that's where the wind starts to get at your back. This was my first real estate investment company, refining off that first property I bought and then selling it. I built my first real estate investment company in California, doing HUD foreclosures, fixing them up, renting them out, working with investors. But my old fixer-upper model that I took from California here to Jacksonville, Florida in the early 2000s, it made me money, but it bankrupted my time. I'd seemed like I was always working. I was the freedoms I was trying to get to with the fixer-upper model just weren't there. It was very taxing. But that all changed when we went into new construction. There's a reason why I've done new construction for the last decade, and it changed everything and everything for the better. And I can honestly tell you guys that real estate has absolutely opened up all the doors of my dreams for me. I came from a very middle class. My parents didn't have any money. I've been able to live the life that I've always wanted, living part-time in Costa Rica, taking long RV trips with my family, spending an exorbitant amount of time, whether it's traveling or learning with them. We renewed our vows in Ireland last year. We spent a lot of time with our family, what we call road schooling, learning together and adventuring together. I'm an avid surfer. I did not want to give up my pastime of surfing, and I still get to do that a few times a week. Probably one of the biggest things from being able to be in real estate is it gave me the financial resource and positioning to be able to donate a kidney to my father. It's one of the best things that ever came out of my real estate. I'm the only one in my family that had not only the money but the space to be able to go through such a big surgery. My wife and I released this book, and each of you on this call, by the way, will get a free copy of the book. Just write in the chat box. Jaden will get that to you. She's on the call as well to help make sure that you get this. It was a USA Today bestseller, and this isn't just me and my wife Jamie's story. It's our whole team, our property counselors, many of our clients, my partner Chris, who's him and his dad were the founders of this, and I merged my company with it. This actually tells the story of the last 25 years, evolving from old properties to new construction, and how it bought back my time and is able to give me the family life that I always wanted. So we'll get you guys a free copy of this. I also, from my real estate, was able to write a Wall Street Journal best-selling family book. I never expected to do that, but I did. And again, this was all paid for by my real estate. What else does active freedom look like? I'd ask you, and this might seem a little silly, but what does active freedom look like for you? That is an important question because I had to have certain goals to keep me in building my wealth. Because if it was just about owning real estate, that gets pretty boring. It's pretty benign. It doesn't have enough meaning. But these are some of the meaningful things we've collected from our existing clients. Spend more time with loved ones, upgraded their health, kept pursuing their passions, whatever that was, traveled worldwide, quit their jobs, bought planes, and they retired their parents. What does active freedom look like for you? Because once you get the real estate, it's not just owning real estate, it's what it produces for you, the space it gives you, the financial resource it provides to be able to do things like this. Here's Carter Funk and Chris Funk. Chris and Carter are the ones that approached me many of years ago. They were managing my portfolio. When I got to Jacksonville, I hired and fired 4 property managers. Chris and his dad took over the portfolio, and they did a better job than I did. I was managing them on my own. I couldn't stand managing properties, and we had a lot of them. And they came to me about 10 years ago and said, "Hey, instead of fixing up all these old properties, what if we built our own?" And I said to Chris and Carter, "Gosh, that's a terrible idea." I was a rehabber. I rehabbed over 1,000 properties. That's what I'm known for. But I'm glad that I listened and I was wrong. And a few years ago, I even merged my company with Chris and Carter because I believe so much in what it was doing, not only for myself, but for our clients as well. And our team is not just me or our property counselors. There's 140 of us strong and growing to make this happen for you. And we are very dedicated to our turnkey new construction business now. We are talking to more people than we ever have. We're building more portfolios than we ever have, and we've created more millionaires than I could have ever imagined. And it's very humbling to look back and see this all develop and come together. In fact, you look on the left side, our old office to our new office that we moved into this past year. The old office, there may have been a few times that we had homeless people knocking on the window when I was finishing a podcast. We won't talk about that, but that's where you start. And we really wanted to put things into systems and the properties, and lag has really kicked in, and we're excited to have a lot of wind at our back now because we are a company by investors and for investors. And what we do is we work with wealthy and ultra wealthy people to build successful rental portfolios for long-term wealth without a lot of headaches and without a lot of their time being used. Our model is affordable new construction, workforce housing in affordable growth markets with low interest rate financing to help ensure cash flow. All of these things have to line up for it to work. Affordable new construction, workforce housing, affordable growth markets. Where is it still growing? And this is probably one of the most important things we do. We're able to get low interest mortgages for you to help ensure cash flow when even the banks out there today are not doing that. We'll talk about that today. So you got to build right, finance right, and manage right, guys. This is key to doing new construction turnkeys. And that's what we do. We know exactly the way to build them. We know the way to get them financed, not only for mortgages, but also insurance, and manage them right. With thousands of units under management, we've been able to do a very successful management system that, again, takes you out of the equation and puts the weight on our shoulders. So you shouldn't be spending more than 1 to 2 hours a month overseeing your portfolio. And here's just a couple of the comments on our property management. I remember mentor of mine said, if you don't have management in place, you can buy a property at 50 cents of the dollar and still lose money. That's very true. Now, what's our sweet spot? The sweet spot that we've gotten to is we do single family, duplex, and quad. So residential financing, where we can get residential financing on these types of properties. That's 4 units or less. And this is our sweet spot. This is our recipe that's created success for us and our clients. And right now we work with over 1,000 clients. We are in a lot of second tier markets in Florida. You'll notice here, we're not in Orlando, we're not in Miami, we're not in Tampa. And that's for designed reason. I like those areas. I have family and friends in those areas, but they don't have the fundamentals that we look for. And our job is to find where is there more chance for growth, where is there most stability, and where is there cash flow. And again, these are the 5 factors. These are things I learned about 20 years ago, and we will not go and build in an area unless these things are occurring. Economic growth, population growth, Affordability, this one is so key right now. That is my word of the year, as a lot of you know, if you've been listening to our other webinars. Affordability, affordability, affordability. Desirability. You don't want just affordable properties. Is it desirable? Is it safe? Do people want to live there? What's the draw? And then healthy supply and demand. As builders, we want to go where there's an undersupply of housing, not an oversupply. Right now, as a company, we have almost $1 billion under asset management. It's producing about 56 million a year in annual recurring revenue for our investors. We've created over 185 million in equity for our investors just in the last few years. We currently have over 1,000 active investors working with us. We've built over 9,000 units, housed over 10,000 residents, and have a team of, again, this is an old slide, 140 and growing strong for our team. In order to work with us and buy one of our single family homes, starter homes, you'll need about an $80,000 minimum investment. We're not for everyone. Sometimes that's too much for someone to get in or start, but for anyone who has that, we know that we can start to put the ball in motion to build you a successful portfolio. But a minimum investment to buy your first property would be about $80,000 for down payment, closing cost, and reserves. We don't want to ever put anyone in over their head. We currently have over 5,000 lots in Florida that we're planning to build out in these markets, and we see growth demand occurring. And I'll go over that through this talk tonight. If you had invested $250,000 5 years ago in the S&P 500, you would have made 10.5% on your money. Great return. If you had invested in a successful real estate fund, and there's good ones out there and there's bad ones, but let's say you invested in a good one, you would be at 13.5% annual return. That's good. But let's look at owning real estate. If you had invested $250,000 5 years ago into our build to rent program here, buying properties in Jacksonville, Florida, you would have earned just over 69% annually on your money. This is the power of owning your own real estate. Wealth, independence, and security are not just the products of work. You know, a paycheck can stop suddenly, and you don't want to trade those dollars. And that's why I see real estate as just the long-term solution. At least it was for me, working a hard job 26 years ago. That's why one of the reasons I got into it. And so these are the levels of, it's kind of a triangle how our industry works for real estate investing. There's the effective level, the enhanced, and the engaged. And so let's look at that. So at the effective level, fix and flips. We all get into fix and flips. A lot of people get into them. It can be a great way to learn real estate, get your hands dirty if that's what you want to do. And it can be a good way to produce cash. Not always good for some of our clients. Again, a lot of our clients own their own businesses, run their own practices, have a very great career. So they don't have time for this, nor do they want to do it. So it's not the best, but it's a great way to start to produce income. And you can become a do-it-yourself landlord. Find the agents on your own, find the property, figure out subcontractors and handyman and repairman to get it fixed. Then you screen the tenants yourself, market for them. Some people really enjoy that. And this can be a great way to start your wealth. That's how I started. But now the level I work at is just the turnkey 2.0. So turnkey real estate is when someone brings in all the solutions for you, all the pieces for you, and you just buy the property. And we call ours the 2.0 because this started with old foreclosed homes years ago. We now only do new construction. And there are so many reasons that I'll go over tonight, but it is a night and day experience from when I used to rehab a lot of older homes compared to building new construction now. So without your money working for you, you'll never stop working for money. I was told that 25 years ago, and that's why I started to buy real estate, because I wanted to have this solved. And that's the best way I've still been able to see today is by owning real estate. So even if you're trapped in good income, it's hard to build real wealth. It comes from setting a growing asset base in motion. You can focus on accumulation while still extracting cash when needed, if that makes sense. That's why I loved real estate. I could refinance off of it. I have cash flow coming in if you buy the right properties. So asset owners finished ahead. You got to be an asset owner. Tom Tusinot, he's been involved with our team for a number of years now. Great story. Again, you guys, like I said, I donated a kidney to my father. So Tom and I hit it right off when I first spoke to him many years ago, because his wife was preparing to receive a kidney. So I was able to share a lot of stories. We hit it off, and he really wanted to be there for her during this time. So he was running a very successful mortgage company, but wanted more passive income. So he bought real estate with us in a few short years. He had over $1 million in equity and almost $12,000 a month in net cash flow. Tom was one of the ones, if you saw on there, bought a plane when he said, what is active freedom? He's former Air Force. The last two rentals he bought, the cash flow pays for his plane payment, which I thought was pretty cool. And this is one of the notes on Facebook when we were writing back personally about family. July 1st of 2021, he wrote to me and said, I retired from Fairway Mortgage yesterday. You played a big part in allowing me. Thank you. So this was a note for our whole team and something I'm very proud of. What did it start with, though, guys? It started with one duplex in Punta Gorda, Florida. It was an initial investment of $88,000 for this duplex for Tom to get into. And after that, he bought 4 more properties and then an additional 3 properties. He took full advantage of these 5 things. Okay. You have to look at all 5 ways: appreciation, leverage, debt paydown, tax benefits, and cash flow. When you work with a good turnkey, especially new construction turnkey company, we try to plug you into all 5 of the ways to do real estate, to make money in real estate. Now, if you look at number 5, that's the one that people will always look at the most. And I love cash flow, but I can honestly look back over the last 25 years and say the bulk of my worth of becoming a multimillionaire came from the first one. Now, I don't depend on appreciation, but I do my best to get in its way by those 5 factors I showed you: economic growth, population growth, affordability, desirability, healthy supply and demand. When I would plant seeds there and look to the longer term, that's when I really had the wind at my back. And yes, cash flow would go up with it, but there's no comparison of where most of my money has been made. But when you put all 5 of these together, it's a very powerful way to not only secure your retirements, but also be able to do the things that you want to do. Now, this is a really important part, guys, of what we're going to talk about tonight. These are 5 common pitfalls to real estate investing. And this is something, whether you work with us, obviously we'd love to work with you, but you can take these with you into whatever you do. And these have been hard fought, earned lessons that I've had to go through over the last 25 years. So first one is short-term thinking. This is going to absolutely kill your real estate success if you're I'm getting into this property and getting out in 6 months. I'm going to get into it. It needs to, producing this huge cash flow within the next year, or I'm not buying. Short-term thinking keeps people on the sidelines, or it tries to force too much onto a property too quickly. And again, like, this is long-term buy and hold has produced wealth. And that's where I've seen people produce the most wealth. But if you're always in short-term thinking, putting too much pressure on, or saying, well, no, I'm staying on the sidelines, that doesn't have that only has $200 cash flow. I thought it would have 3 to start. I'm staying on the sideline. If you're not willing to plant seeds and give them a chance to water, you're always going to be stuck in this, and you're going to stay kind of at a level ground and not really be able to develop wealth. The do-it-yourself. The high majority of our clients that we work with are very busy. They've had, again, successful businesses, successful careers. They run a successful medical practice. They're very geared into technology, but they work long hours. They make great money. So to try to do it yourself, especially, again, a lot of our friends from California are on the phone right now, to be able to buy property in Florida from across the country on your own, find your own realtors, find your own repairman, try to manage it yourself, can be extremely taxing and pull you away from your business, your career. You don't necessarily want to do that. So a lot of people that try to do it yourself, especially from afar, it hasn't gone well. I can tell you, I was one of those people when I was still living in Santa Barbara, California, investing in Bakersfield. When I first started coming to Jacksonville in the early 2000s, I was trying to do it myself, and it really messed me up. I was not set up to do it. And I learned, gosh, you really have to have a team on the ground wherever you are. So if you're super busy and you want to try to do it yourself, it's not matching your time abilities, and it could keep you at a flat line. Chasing cheap. This is really something I want to dial home to you guys. If I've learned anything, if one of my best friends, if my brother-in-law came to me and he says, I want to start investing in real estate. And I like my brother-in-law, in case anyone was, I like my brother-in-law a lot. What I tell them is buy less of better quality. Buy less of better quality. That was my biggest mistake. It's so, it seems cool to be able to say, oh, I did all these deals, but if I could go back, guys, I would do much less of better quality. I was chasing cheap because that's what I was originally taught to do. But what I found when I chased cheap Again, that sounds affordable, but was it desirable? They were tougher areas in tougher condition with more maintenance and repairs, more turnover, crime that I didn't know about. Chasing cheap can be a very, very dangerous thing. And I will always sacrifice some cash flow and return for a higher quality property in a better area now. And I've been able to do that. I've downsized my portfolio tremendously from being at like 200 to higher end, better properties of such like new construction can provide. So be careful of chasing cheap. They can actually delineate your wealth instead of increase your wealth. Misdirected charity. This is for our new investors out there. And again, if you have a property manager in between you and your property, this probably won't happen. When I was first, bought my first 4 or 5 rental properties in Bakersfield, California, I was managing myself, and I was the foolish one who kept giving misdirected charity. In fact, I took more stories from tenants than I actually did payments for those first 6 months, and it could have bankrupted me. The one thing that I've learned with real estate is if I give charity to my rentals, I can't give charity anywhere else. And I really enjoy certain causes that I care about, that I like to donate to. You want to remember, keep your charity and your rentals completely separate, because it almost bankrupts me when I first started my first 4 or 5 rentals. Your rental property is there for money. Your mortgage will still be due at the end of the month. I like to let a manager get in between. Again, you want the best for people, but you cannot misdirect into charity for your rentals. It can put you in a dangerous situation. And wrong partners. This is where you can team up with the wrong partners in anything, and this can be an extremely dangerous thing. I can tell you, when I first came here, I thought I had some partners in Jacksonville that put me in some really dangerous neighborhoods that I didn't realize. And you can have wrong partners in financing, wrong partners in construction, wrong partners in property management. The wrong partners will absolutely sink you. They are the pitfall of real estate. And that's why we have tried to develop, from our blood, sweat, and tears, from all the pain that I've had to go through the last 25 years. We've tried to eliminate this, where any chance of the wrong partners, we have brought in the pieces to make sure that you get the right partner. Now, our plan for 2025, again, affordable new construction, affordable growth markets with low interest mortgage financing to help ensure the cash flow. That is our plan. It's simple, it works, and we're excited for it. Savvy investors use proven systems, strategy, and guidance to make money in real estate by producing repeatable results. We do the same thing over and over and over and over. It's not exciting. It's boring, but it works. It's in demand. It's got a safety score, which means that when markets go up, it goes up with it. When markets are going sideways, it shows a good holding point with what we focus on. So again, we are here to build them right, finance them right, and manage them right. Let's talk a little bit about that. So with financing them right, this is absolutely key right now. If you go into a mortgage company today, you're going to get quoted 7.25%, possibly for one of an investment property. We have our own in-house financing. You can look that we're getting people as low as 3.75 for a 10-year fixed, 30-year AM. Or if you want 30-year fixed, 30-year AM, we can get you down to 4.25. So we're beating the market by almost 3%. So what does that do? Well, that gives you instant cash flow when another mortgage might give you negative cash flow. We want to get you off on the right foot. So bringing in the in-house financing on new construction properties, again, we know how to build them right. We know the areas to build them. Again, you guys are not in the early test phase. We've done this now nearly 10,000 times. We know exactly the type that people like, the interior that people like, the areas people like. And with financing, this is absolutely a great combo. Financing also requires insurance. And I'm going to talk about this at the end. If you've heard of the stories of, oh, I can't get insurance in Florida. Oh, I heard, insurance in Florida is crazy ridiculous. That is a very, very misstated assumption. And we talk about this for our new construction model. You can insure one of our properties for $60 a month, as cheap as for some of our single family homes, because they are new construction, where we build them and how we build them, we're able to save you on the insurance as well. Again, I want you to remember these 5 factors when you're looking into where you want to invest. Is there an economic growth? Is there population growth? Is there good affordability? And that means, what's the average price of the home and what's the average medium income for a household? That'll tell you a lot. Look that up. Desirable. Do people want to live there? Is it safe? And supply and demand. Is there a need for more houses? This is what you want to look for. Now, this is the Fed chart. Why do we build in Florida? Well, we like the Southeast, but let's compare Alabama to Florida. Population growth covers a lot of tracks. It really puts the wind at your back. And when you look at Alabama versus Florida, Alabama looks pretty flat. Again, I like Alabama, but we're not building there because we like to have more population growth. That's just not there. With Florida, you can see that hockey stick going up. That's why we build in Florida. Again, we want that population growth. And we want to go where there's a housing shortage. So the Sunshine State right now only has 25 affordable and available rental homes for every 100 low income renters. Think about that for a minute. You're saying, well, aren't there other builders out there? Yeah, there are. There's big national home builders and others, but these guys like to build the more expensive, more custom homes that have larger margins. We are a low margin builder. We will make less off of each property that we build and make up for it in volume. Even though the big guys do a lot of properties, again, they want bigger spreads. Those are available on those bigger, more expensive houses. And the US is short 4.5 million homes for existing people right now. So we are still in a housing shortage, which as a builder in a growth area, we love to hear. Now, supply and demand is going to become an issue by the end of this year. And this is not an if, it's a when. Because if you look at this chart, this is a Fed chart, and we'll get you copies of any of our slides. So don't worry about jotting down notes, guys. But in February of 2023, we had a peak in permits being pulled, and then it has dropped dramatically. This takes about 2 years to gear back up, takes about a year and a half to work through these. So what we're starting to see now is we had a lot of COVID inventory come out at the beginning of last year, which slowed down rentals being filled from about 30 days to 60 days. But now we're seeing that starting to get gobbled up. And as we work through the next 2 quarters, what all economists and real estate experts are saying is we have no inventory coming behind it. And with these second tier markets, especially in Florida, still growing, we're going to have a shortage of property, just like we had in the end of 2020, 5 years ago. So this is something that we're looking for. We want that supply and demand in our favor. And market-wise, you might have been hearing, oh man, there's so many properties on the market in Florida now. That was some agent, I think from Ohio, wrote that to me, who had never invested here. And I sent him this. In 2019, before the pandemic took off, every real estate person will tell you it was a normal market by any measurement. And so if you look at what it was, how many properties were available in December of 2019 compared to the end of this past year, it's just about the same amount of numbers. And that's with a lot more people moving to Florida in these 5 years. So the number of listings has actually stayed about the same from 5 years ago to today. Now, this did drop way down in 2020 when we had the least amount of inventory on the market ever. But now it's back to a normalized market, which we like because that has incremental growth, but not crazy growth that can be a little more fluctuating. Now, again, guys, time in the market is more important than timing the market. But if we can get you both, I'm going to get you both. So let's look at this real quick. Prosperity in the Age of Decline, Brian Boulay, Alan Boulay, I've been following them for years. ITR Economics, they've called about a 94% accuracy since 1984. These guys are great. They were a big guiding post for me in designing this whole business. And they measure all of the industries. Is it in recovery? Is it in accelerated growth? Is it in slowing growth? Is it in recession? So I'd like you to look here. Again, they do all different industries, from consumer pricing to foreign to wholesale, trade to financial. If you look at the very bottom here is housing. See, housing is right there at the end of what they considered an interest rate recession because interest rates shot up. It slowed down sales. And we had a lower sales volume for the last 2 years. But you can see right where they say we are. We're right at the end of that interest rate recession, and we're going into a recovery, slowing growth, accelerated growth period. They are calling for very good things for the next 4 to 5 years. And it's just hitting the curve now. So, again, you want to be in the market a long time, but if you can time the market, and you're really looking to time the market, this is one of the best times we've seen. If you're looking and you believe that the best time to get in is right after a landing like this interest rate recession, we're seeing that now. Now, I'm going to keep saying it, guys. Affordable new construction in affordable high growth markets, low interest mortgage financing, long term low interest mortgage financing to help ensure your cash flow. Now, let's look at this. So, what actually does one of our properties look like? Well, last week I did a webinar on our most popular market, my number one pick, and that's Ocala. Ocala, it has the lowest hurricane risk zone in the state, one of the fastest growing economies. It also has one of the best affordability indexes, meaning that the average price for a home is still low, especially compared to higher wages. The family income is very healthy there compared to the average price of home. So we've created a lot of wealth for ourselves and our investors in the Ocala market. Now, this is one of our standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath properties. Again, still in the 200s, 277,000, after mortgage, taxes, and insurance. Again, look at this. I know that Austin, who's on the line, always sends out his insurance quotes because when people say this, I heard a rumor that you can't get insurance in Florida or it's very expensive. This is $64 a month for full insurance coverage for a new construction home. We do offer 2 years of free property management. And after this, you're looking at a starting cash flow of $338. And again, the 5-year hold of $138,972. These are based off very conservative growth numbers that you can go through with your property counselor. Now, I do want to stop and talk about that for a minute. Having a property counselor is something that I would have been willing to pay a lot of money for back in 1999 when I started this journey. It's unbelievable what you can be guided on, what you can lean on when you have a good property counselor. And we have a good team of property counselors that have been working in real estate for years, invest themselves, have built several successful portfolios for our clients. And they'll go through exactly how do we come up with these numbers, exactly what type of property is the best one to start with. Should it be a single family? Is it a duplex? Is it a quad? Which market are you looking for? What are your abilities? Can we set a plan of growing to a certain amount of homes? The property counselors have been trained and been in the trenches to be able to do that. And they've, again, worked with collectively over 1,000 investors now. So again, single family home, Ocala, great pick. Now also the duplex. Now duplexes are really good things in my opinion. Duplexes can go in nice single family home neighborhoods, and you get 2 tenants under one roof. So it's almost like getting 2 smaller single family homes that are more affordable for the tenants to be able to rent. They feel like they have their own home, their own yard compared to an apartment building. They love being there. And again, down the road, if you decide to sell this, you could sell to an investor, but you can also sell to a first-time home buyer. And we've seen that become more popular where someone will use their first-time home buyer's loan to move into one side and to rent the other side. So I want to stop real quick, see if there's any questions. No, looks like we're doing good. All right. So duplexes are one of my favorite methods to growing wealth. One of my favorites because I see them being high in demand, low in vacancy, higher rent yield. You can resell to a first-time home buyer. And they can also be built in nice single family home neighborhoods. So these are a great way to build wealth. Again, you look at the insurance for 2 units, $92 a month. So less than $50 a month to insure each of these units. That's full insurance coverage. And they're cash flowing nearly $600 to start. Again, people are saying you can't get cash flow on new construction in Florida anymore. Well, it depends on what market you go to. It depends on what kind of financing you have. It depends on who's building the property for you. Are they building it right? Are they building it affordable? And that's what we try to do. And again, remember, time in the market. Look at this 5-year hold. And this is conservative numbers based off of the last 80 years in Florida markets, $203,000 hold profit. This is where wealth can be created and built. And quads. Quads are something that I really look at as well. They're kind of a unicorn. They're harder to get approved. They're also harder to find because a lot of people just aren't building them. You might be in an area and say, yeah, you know what, I've seen quads around, but they're a lot older. There's not many available. And we saw this hole in the market about 10 years ago, and we started to build them. They're a great way because remember, you're getting 4 units under one roof and it's residential financing. This is the most amount of units you can get without getting into the commercial world. Once you get into that commercial world, guys, you got rates changing. It's not long-term fixed, higher interest rates. This keeps you in that residential. You can still use our in-house financing, and it gets you started on a cash flow. And the 5-year holds on these types of properties, the growth we've seen has been quite extraordinary. So, and you're only using one loan. Again, normally you get about 9 or 10 loans that you can use in our in-house financing program. This, although it's 4 units, is only one loan. So again, your property counselor can go deeper into the numbers. These are just overviews of the numbers. So they can go deeper into it. Now, the most successful investors we work with own 3 to 8 properties. Now, I'm not saying that you have to buy 3 to 8 properties, but people say, how do I become like Tom or some of the more people I'm going to show you? Well, most of them buy at least 3 to 8 properties. We have people go up to 12, 15, 23 properties. But we have a sweet spot of people that create their own little residual business of rental properties owning 3 to 8 properties. And it's a combination, again, of our new construction, single family, duplex, and quads. And that's where they start to see a residual income, a net worth growth. And again, the nice thing for you to see, when I went into this years ago, it was the 100 house club, and then the 200 house club. But the thing I have to tell you guys, these were losing me money, and they were not nice houses, and they weren't good areas, and they weren't producing. They were actually taking money out of my pocket. You can do so much more with so much less if it's high quality and done right. And that's what excites me. This is doable, I think, for almost anyone. So Adam is a great example. So Adam had done some investing in his backyard of Utah. I remember the first conversation that I had with him. He was very hands-on on his real estate, but he couldn't make the numbers work where he was anymore. And so it took a little convincing for him to come out to Florida. Years later, he liked it so much, he moved here. Our families are now friends. But Adam's built an incredible portfolio for himself. He started pretty aggressively with about 5 properties and then doubled it to another 5 properties with us. And he liked the area so much, he moved here part-time from Utah, went into other properties that I consulted him on, but weren't even involved with us. Today, Adam, with his portfolio that he's built in the last 8 years here, is over 21,000 in estimated monthly cash flow and almost 3 million in equity. And that's just in the last 4 years for that part. So you can see there is a momentum that can be done. And for Adam, it was a little tricky for him to get out of his head to say, I'm leaving my own backyard to let someone else do the work for me. But he's saying, man, I'm so glad, because if I'd stayed in Salt Lake, I would have just bought into properties that were peaked out, weren't cash flowing, and haven't had anywhere close to the growth that we have here. So asset owners win, job security loses. Adam was doing really well at his mortgage company, but he said, I got to get more assets. And I know he's very glad that he did. Mina Goodwin, another great story, infectious disease doctor in New York City. She doesn't want to retire. She just wants to supplement her income. She wants to have something to be able to depend on when she steps back from her practice. She has a young family, but she's, again, in New York, and she did not have the time with what she was working on. Big work, obviously, being an infectious disease doctor. So she turned to us. She started with 3 properties, bought an additional 3 properties. She's now at almost $6,000 a month net cash flow and almost $800,000 in equity growth in the last 3 years. So we're very excited for Amina again. But you see, these numbers are very achievable, and we're not talking a huge amount of properties. And there's incremental steps that you can take to be able to do this. So why would it be worth joining our investor community? You're going to have access to educational videos and market updates. We're trying to update you twice a week on what's happening in the market. If I go on a new podcast, you're going to get a notice on it. Hot properties coming out, so you can see it. Any financing updates, you're going to get that on a weekly and monthly basis from us. So it keeps you abreast of what's happening in the real estate market, the mortgage financing world. And so we like to keep our people up to date. Our program is done for you. Okay, we provide one-on-one coaching to help you achieve your investor goals. I always say when people say to me, well, what's the first start? I said, get on the phone with a property counselor and just talk to them. I mean, I'm trying to think of how much I would have probably paid that $5,000 that I paid for that first class way back then, which was a lot. It still is a lot of money, but now a lot of money back then to talk to a property counselor. There is no obligation. There's no fee. And you're going to be able to plug into their knowledge that they've worked with so many investors. And they hold your hand and educate you right through the process. If you do decide to buy with us, we're going to make sure it's built right, financed right, and managed right. And the nice thing that we get from our clients is they say, man, I felt like I was a part of the process, but I was never alone. And that's what we want. But once we get you through that initial closing process, we have a very simple goal. You should be staying in touch with us for about an hour and two a month. And that should be the time frame that you need to manage your whole portfolio. The rest should fall on us. And the support systems keep coming out, guys, whenever you need it. You'll be able to call in. You're not just working with your property counselor, and then you have your portfolio manager, our client services. This is the things we do. Our lenders, lots of different team members working with you. And so a lot of our property counselors too, they did new construction properties a decade ago, and they're still talking to their clients. Their clients are still doing it. The nice thing about your property counselors, they are with you the lifetime of the property. So the next steps, go to Southern Impression Homes, request a call. That's what I would do. I would also write in the chat box, if you want a free copy of the book, get a free copy of the book. We put a lot into that. It's become a bestseller. We're really proud of it. And again, it's not just me and my wife and my partner and our counselors and our team. It's a lot of our clients, their own journey, what they learned on it, what principles we discovered together. Again, it's a great way. And again, I have my twist on family in it. For me, it was all about having real estate so I could have a family life my parents could never afford. That's why I went into real estate. It was pretty simple for me. And so I write about that a bit in the book as well. And hopefully, if you have those same family values, you'll resonate with them. Book with your property counselor. That's a great step. Once you start to buy real estate, guys, the ultimate goal here is passive income, active freedom. That's the goal. That's what we want to see for you guys. The work is put onto our shoulders. You're able to lean on us with our systems. So the properties aren't taking away freedom or creating a second or third job for you. They're creating active freedom with not only financial resource, but time bought back. And that's really important to us. So any questions?
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good.
So not a ton of questions this evening, but one we would love to hear your opinion on. Danny asked if you're starting a portfolio and had the option of purchasing two duplexes or one quad, what would you do?
Right now in the market, if I had the choice to buy two duplexes or one quad, I'd buy two duplexes. And the reason why is if you're starting out, I like to take risk aversion out the most that I can. All of our properties will appreciate. I believe in all of our properties. But if you're pinpointing two different duplexes, then you have the ability to sell one at a time. And you're more likely to also, for exit strategy, you're more likely to have the opportunity to sell to either an investor or a first-time home buyer. A quad, there's less chance of a first-time home buyer that's going to step in and buy that. Now, with that said, Austin just sold one last week, so to a house hacker. But again, if I like both, but I would choose the two duplexes. I think that gives you a little more of a safety score, a little more versatility for not only area, but also being able to have more exit strategy options down the road.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim. A question from Vika. And this is regarding the inventory here in Florida. Okay. So Vika is asking, sorry, I passed it by, regarding the inventory.
Well, I can, as you're pulling that up,
Austin.
Austin. So inventory, again, I did a whole talk and I saw some of our friends from Canada. I did it up in Toronto where I heard investing. I call it I heard investing. I heard you can't get insurance in Florida. Like, let's look at that one. Well, we know that's not true. Especially if you're building new construction, like old properties. I always use, so I'm in my home office right now. I'm about 50 feet off the beach. Okay. We're on a small barrier island, only 10 houses wide from ocean to intercoastal. So my house built in 2004, my insurance compared to a few of the small beach cottages down the road that were built in 1957-ish, their insurance is 5 to 7 times more. And their house is not even a third of the size of mine. Why? Well, they were built to different structural design. They're built at low-lying ground. They're built at 2 to 3 feet above sea level. I'm at 14 feet above sea level. And insurance companies look at that and they give it a better score, and they're all about risk analysis. So getting insurance on new construction, and again, I take this risk on my personal residence, but my investment properties, they're a few more miles inland. And when you build, you can build in coastal communities, but if you're a few miles inland, like we are with the majority of our projects, the insurance risks go down. Where you're seeing all these issues is low-lying properties or properties right up against the coast where you take a lot more risk. And I like that risk for my lifestyle, but a lot of my investment properties, no. When it comes to inventory levels, people will give statistics and say inventory levels in Florida have shot up 400%. Well, when inventory levels in 2021 went to the lowest they've ever been. So a normal market will have about 6 months of inventory on the market. We were down to 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It's never been seen before. You go backwards to the 2008 meltdown, there was 16 months. So you're going, geez, that's a problem. 16 months of inventory, that's a problem. But right now, today for inventory, again, we're right at the levels we were at 2019, which by everyone's standards was a very normalized market before COVID. So compared to 2021, when inventory levels just went down to nothing because everything was just getting bought up, everyone wanted to move to Florida. Yeah, they're up a lot from that. But for a normalized market, we're right at the inventory levels that constitute a healthy market. And we're very happy with that. Did that answer the question, Austin?
I think that you nailed it right there. Yeah. So there is a comment here that I want to talk to you about. So from Blaine, Blaine loves the strategy more than anything. It is something that I have wanted to do since they were 12 years old. And I know you always say the best time to buy real estate is when you're 12. The second best time is today.
Yep. Well, I think that we all wanted to buy it when we were 12 years old. I bought my first property at 25. My son bought his first property at where I was 24. My son bought his first one at 20. So he's beat me by a few years. Again, time in the market. Of course, it would have been nice to buy back then, but just get in the game. Take an educated risk and get in the game, whether it's with us or someone else. Of course, I'm going to tell you, I want you to come to us. But if you never get in the game, and you look at the history of real estate for the last 150 years in any first world country, yeah, you might have some dips, you might have some sideways or flat times. But if you're in it for the long term, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to lose if history repeats itself.
It's awesome. So I'm checking to see if there's any more questions for you this evening.
Well, good. Well, guys, again, to recap, don't put yourself under too much pressure to have to roll up your sleeves and create a whole real estate empire. It is amazing what a few well-positioned, well-managed, high-quality properties can do. And again, remember my whole lesson that I've learned over 25 years, own less of better quality. If you will do that, if you will plant those seeds, if you'll take advantage of leverage. We didn't even get into leverage tonight. Some of you invest in the stocks. Well, if you buy $200,000 worth of stocks, you got to normally have $200,000. If you're buying a $200,000 piece of real estate, you only need $40,000. That's the leveraging effect of real estate is huge, and you'll want to plug into that. Again, I was very naive, and I think what I was happy enough to admit was when I was that young kid at that first event, I was kind of dumb enough to believe, and I did get some good guideposts to follow, and that made all the difference. But it was that action taking. Like, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Do your numbers, understand the principles, look at what's available, whether it's us or someone else, and pull the trigger. That's the only way. And don't worry again about timing the market. Right now, if you are worried about that, then don't listen to me. Listen to the people that have called it like I showed you. Look up ITR economics, see what they're saying about it. But if you're worried about timing the market, now is great. But again, I want you to be more concerned about time in the market. Again, if you have the courage and the patience to look out 5 years on a good property, it's remarkable what can happen. And I'm a testament to that. So, well, good guys. Any other questions that come up, Austin?
Yep, I've got a couple more for you from
Oh,
Russ in Canada. Could you
okay.
please elaborate what changes presented for Canadians?
With tariffs or with financing?
There wasn't any context.
Okay, so let's hit on a few things. Tariffs. I believe that we're a lot more friendly than things are being made out to be. I'm seeing a lot of fighting between our U.S. hockey team and Canadian hockey team. I mean, I think this is silly. This has to blow over. There is some hard negotiations going on for someone to get something. And I could be wrong here. I think this tariff thing is going to lean down because the U.S. and Canada just have too much camaraderie. So I think this is more of a tactical situation that will fade. And I do think it's going to give Canadians either way the desire to get more exposure to the US dollar. And so um, I believe that there's going to be great opportunities. Plus, there's a lot of confusion up there right now from what I'm being told of the landlord laws and what's happening. More exposure to the US dollar would probably be a good thing. And even if there are tariffs or things of such, there is something that we have right now and we've had for about the last year and a half that I want to make sure it's clear we haven't had for 15 years. Again, I don't know if you're coming from our good friends Tom and Nick of Rockstar Real Estate. We've been great friends for years, and we only started doing business together the last 2 years because we could never get financing. There was never good financing available for Canadian investors. There was always like this rink dink, maybe little private mortgage program was a super high rate. We've been locking in, we've just locked in some Canadian investors recently at 5.5%. And that's long-term fixed money for the US, which is incredible. Our personal residents, our owner occupieds are paying in the sixes right now. So I believe for Canada right now, yes, there's some struggle. There's some friction. I think it's going to blow over. I think Canadians are going to want to have exposure to the US dollar for things that are happening in a positive light. And there's going to be an ease of coming over because there's still financing being extended to you. So that's good. Also, I saw something about prices dropping.
Yeah, so Vika asked what your thoughts are about the decrease in the home prices in Florida. Some buyers keep the price, but others are lowering the price.
Yeah, so this is a great question. Again, this is where we have to look at Florida is a big place. And there are prices dropping, but I say, where are they and what type of properties are they? That's something you have to look at, Viva, real closely. Remember what I talked about. We're not in Miami. We're not in Tampa. We're not in Orlando. Those markets, again, being a Jersey boy myself, I thought that's all there was in Florida growing up. That's all Florida. That's it. Those three markets, and obviously nothing could be further from the truth. But those got a lot of attention and a lot of equity growth. And now I feel those areas are over leveraged. They've gone up too much. And that's why we go to these more affordable second tier markets. Those are the areas you're seeing that things are stable, and they dropped maybe a little bit over the last 2 years with this interest rate recession, which I was talking about earlier, but they've really had status quo. And again, for Ocala, for example, you're still buying houses, brand new construction in the mid to higher 200,000s, and the median income in Ocala is 76,000. So those are still very affordable. And yes, they've gone up, but again, they started so low, they're still an affordable rate. So when you're looking around Florida, you got to look at where and you got to look at what type. Again, we're always is going to find the biggest hurt on properties is the high end stuff and the absolute bottom of the barrel, where I encourage you not to invest, where it's tougher neighborhoods in tougher condition, where they're sometimes you can only buy them cash and no owner occupied person is going to buy there. It's all investor owned neighborhoods. Those are the areas where you see a lot of the volatility. That's why we like to build close to the median value. The median value has always shown, and you can look this up, to hold its value the strongest during, sideways times or down times. And it also appreciates during the good times. That's why I've always liked sticking there. I think it has a great safety score. So again, for Florida, you got to look at where, you got to look at what type. For our second tier markets, we're feeling a great stability, and the numbers show that.
And Jim, Vika is coming from my neck of the woods, Claremont, Florida. So I definitely know the construction levels there are very high with those beautiful lakes.
It's a beautiful area.
It's
Claremont,
gorgeous.
it's gorgeous, but that's where, remember, the houses I would live in any of the properties that we build. I don't have to, but again, it's not where I want to live. It's where other people want to live. And we build workforce housing, solid working class that people really like. And so it's not going to be as nice as a Claremont, but it's going to be nice. It's going to be safe. It's going to be low crime index. It's going to have good longevity.
Absolutely. Russ from Rockstar Real Estate in Canada would like you to elaborate a little bit on the property title holding for Canadians.
Oh yeah, this has been a big conversation, Russ. So we are going to do a whole nother webinar on that. So that, because what we found was we had to make sure that the entity structuring people matched with the lender. What the lender was requiring wasn't the way that the entity structuring people were originally putting it up. We now have worked that out where I am not the expert on it, but I have the expert on it, exactly what has to be done, because we want to have two things for you. We want to avoid double taxation, and we want to have you protected. And actually, I'm sorry, three, we want you to be able to get the money. So now with the entity structure we have up, and again, I don't want to be the one to explain it because I'm not the expert, but again, we're going to do an additional call on that. The new entity structuring our mortgage company has approved, and it's going to give you that protection for, slip and fall. So you're not, put in harm's way if a tenant slip and fall. You're not put in harm's way of double taxation, which has always been a concern of crossing the border. And also you're going to be able to get the money. So I'm not going to go into that because, again, I'm not the expert, but I can tell you I've been on 2 or 3 calls in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And we now have a very clear program of how to do that, exactly how to set up your LLC and who the managing members have to be. So all of that has been set up, so I can get you that. Either get on that webinar with us or set a private conversation with our property counselor, and they'll be able to go through it in detail.
Awesome, Jim. Do you have time for just one more question?
Yeah,
from me
of course.
Personally?
Yeah, sure.
So what are your thoughts on Ron DeSantis supporting the idea of eliminating property taxes in Florida?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know if anyone has seen that, but Ron DeSantis announced, I think earlier this week, and it came out on Housing Wire, that he is looking to possibly abolish property taxes. He thinks there's better ways to collect on it. And that could be through sales tax or such. We're not sure, but for property owners, that could be a pretty interesting thing, especially out of area property owners. Well, you guys could really benefit from this. And the way I've seen it is we're always looking to save on cost. We're looking to save on our interest payments for the mortgage. We're looking to save on our insurance premiums. And if we can save on our property taxes, well, that's right to the bottom line. So even if he didn't abolish them, Austin, and he got them down 50%, wow, what could that do to Florida real estate? Very interesting. It's one of the few to see that. So it's something I'll be watching. I'm not too sure of it. It's too early to tell, but that could be in. Not only would it be good for existing, but it's no secret that if something like that was put into, a good protocol, that's going to attract a ton more of investment capital to the Florida markets, just like it did during the pandemic.
Wow. That would create a lot of competition, even if it was just 50%.
Yeah. I mean, think about that on all my properties. Wow, that would be quite a gift.
Huge.
So, well, good. Well, listen, we always appreciate your time. This is definitely something that we really care about. It's exciting to watch the portfolios continue to grow, investors to be able to come back and accomplish what we set out for, to have something to depend on. And that's what for real estate has been. It's been the thing that I've been able to depend on and be able to buy back my time and create the family life I always wanted. And we'd like to see the same for you. So please get a copy of the book, get on a call with your with your property counselor, no obligation. See where you stand financially. You might be pleasantly surprised. A lot of people are once we get them pre-called. They're like, holy dang, I didn't know that I could, that I was in that good of a position. See where you're at. And don't get stuck in analysis paralysis, whether it's us or someone else. Get educated, and you can only win when you're on the field. So take action. I wish you guys the best. Let us be here for you. Thanks again for being here tonight, guys. And hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Take care.